My name is Eitan Chatayat and welcome to I'm That podcast, where I get to talk to some pretty incredible people. Some are friends and colleagues, some are clients, and some are people I haven't even met yet. On I'm That, we'll hear from them about who they are, what they do and why, stuff they love or hate, mistakes they've made, victories they've had. They're all known for something, but by the time we're through, the hope is they'll have revealed some things we didn't know about them. Our talk may be deep, profound, funny, who knows really. One thing for sure, it'll be interesting and honest. So if you're up for that, thank you for joining me on I'm That, and here we go. Born and raised in Australia, Romy Samuel has lived and worked in technology from Israel to Europe, Melbourne, New York, and Sydney. She was one of very few women in the male-dominated industry of IT in the late 90s. As an avid sneaker collector, she has super strong ties to the streetwear community globally and currently works for Kith, one of the world's leading brands in streetwear fashion. She now lives in LA with her American husband and 2 children. She is also the co-founder of Common Ace, a one-stop shop marketplace for women's sneakers. She's even got a weekly recap show on all things streetwear, culture, and sneakers called The Loop on Snapchat, which she hosts with a few other amazing women. Romy.
Yes.
Hey.
Sounds like I do a lot. You need to throw in there and does the laundry a lot and takes out the garbage every day and likes to get into bed as often as possible.
Oh, yes, I do love that as well. Listen, before we dive into everything, I have a question that I need to ask you, and you know what it is.
Go.
I start the podcast with a question. Romy Samuel, I'm that
sneaker loving, hoarding, obsessive mother of many cats lady in sunny California.
Many cats? Did you say cats?
Yeah, cats. I have 3 cats and I'm about to get a 4th.
Oh my God. Well, I know you have sneakers. I mean, you have 300 sneakers, 400. How many sneakers do you have?
A lot. I don't count. I just got another pair yesterday.
We'll talk about cats as well. But like, I think I'm more interested in this whole sneaker thing. But like, so basically, you've lived in tons of countries. I think like 5, 6, 7 different countries. And I know that you worked in tech for like almost 15 years. I know for a fact that you have tons of sneakers. I stopped at 300, but like you probably have more than them.
Yes.
And you're doing some pretty amazing stuff. So saving me from introducing you any more than I already have, why don't you tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Oh my God. Okay. I do. Well, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I really like sneakers. I've loved sneakers for a very, very fucking long time. I'd say 20 plus years. And I now have a shoeseum in my house, which is a room with floor to ceiling shelves with all my sneakers out. But mind you, for about 10 plus years, 15 years or whatever, they were all boxes like Jenga. It was like Jenga, trying to find the pair of shoes that you wanted without, pulling down another 20 boxes on top of yourself. But yeah, I have a lot of sneakers. And
wait. So are they all on display now? Kind of like just
now they're all on display. Yeah, I really need to put a bit more content on my Instagram with it because it does look pretty fucking amazing.
Is it like all color? Is it by color? Is it by brand?
Color. It's like a rainbow. It's like a rainbow room. It's like a rainbow room of sneakers, and it's pretty wild. I'll send you some pictures. But yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. So I've but that's the thing. Like, even years ago, my friends back in Australia when I was living in Sydney before LA, when they. Obviously, I was accumulating then, but my friends would say to me, you need to do something with this. What are you doing? You should design sneakers. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to design sneakers. So you know what I did? I had how old was she? I think she was like 5 months old. I had a 5-month-old and I was like, I got to go to China for a week. Bye. And I went to China. And I met up with my Israeli friend, Karen, who'd been living there for a while in Guangzhou. And I went to this like shoe expo. It's called the Canton Fair. It's like really famous. It's like, everyone in the rag trade goes there every year to find the manufacturers. So I rocked up to China you know, and like I just pushed out a kid, got to go design some shoes, and went with my notebook and my clipboard and my, you know, iPad, and started talking to a bunch of manufacturers and did the math, and you know, and then thought, oh God, I'm not spending $250,000 now with a 3-month-old, a 5-month-old, and a 1-year-old to like start a sneaker business, because it was going to cost a fortune, like not just from manufacturing, from marketing, from everything. I was like, I'm mad, I'm not doing that. So, but I really wanted to design sneakers. I had this whole, like, you know, I was drawing and coming up with all these sneaker ideas.
Well, I gotta like ask, why sneakers? I mean, it could be why. What's the obsession with? I mean, I know that you said something funny to me. You said, I want to be Joan Rivers in sneakers when I'm 70, and I was like, what? What's that? What? And then I know that your dad used to buy you like all the latest sneakers, and whenever he traveled on business trips and stuff. So, but what is it with sneakers and you?
I don't know, actually. It's sort of, it's a feeling more than a reason, more than anything else. It's just like anything. It's like what resonates. Why does a man decide to build aquariums in his house? You know, same thing, right? Why does another lady want to have 100 handbags? I don't know. It's just, it's what resonates. It's something, it's in alignment with whatever your being is, you know, with anything in life. Why have you got those bloody things behind
The
you? There's
Legos?
Lego. Yeah, like what's with
I'll tell
that,
you, because
mate?
well, okay, there's a good answer there, because I love
Okay.
building, I love creating. It's meditation for
Okay.
me. But
Right. Okay.
sneakers, I mean, so there's definitely a love of
I'll
design.
tell you why.
Okay,
I'll tell you why sneakers. I'll
tell
tell
me.
you fucking why sneakers.
Tell me why.
Sneakers are a creative extension of oneself, right? In a sense, like fashion is the same way fashion is, right? People love fashion. People love to dress up. People love to come up with their outfits. It's an extension of oneself. I think the thing with sneakers is that they vary so much, and you can get so many different colors and so many different designs, and they just, it's just a creative extension of oneself in a sense. I love fashion as much as I love sneakers. Like my wardrobe is equally as psychotic as my shoeseum. The sneakers just became a thing as well, I suppose, you know,
Well, I
more than
mean,
any
I
other
think
shoe.
this is a good time right now to tell people where to follow you on Instagram, because I do follow you and I see what you get up to with your fashion.
My
Yeah.
outfits
What
and
is it?
whatnot. Yeah. It's at Romrom, ROM, and then 3 Y's at the end. So
Got it.
YYY.
Got it.
Romrom,
The
YYY.
YYY sneakers, and you just told us. Well, I mean, so
Yeah.
your dad, I know that
Mm.
your dad passed away years ago.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Is it true that you have a tattoo of
I do. I have a
Stan?
tattoo of a Stan Smith on my arm.
Can I see it? I mean, the
That's,
listeners
yeah.
can't see it, but can I see it? All right. So it's a Stan Smith. It's the classic. Why do you
It's a
have that
classic.
tattoo? Yeah.
It was his shoe. It was the first pair of shoes I remember very distinctly. Him wearing, probably in the early 80s. He used to play tennis every week or every other week at his friend's place. Brian Zeke was his name, and he used to wear Stan Smiths, and they were this tennis shoe of de jour back then. You know, Nike wasn't doing tennis shoes, and maybe they were a bit. Yeah, they were actually, but not. Stan Smith was like the iconic shoe, and he was also a really famous tennis player. So everyone had them. And my dad didn't have such big feet. So I remember I could put them on my feet, and they weren't that big. And I would tie the laces up really tightly and walk around the house in them. And I just thought they were amazing. I used to put his jeans on as well. He used to have these like Levi's 501s that I also remember being really cool, with like ripped up holes in them. And I'd put them on and then grab a belt and like put the belt around my waist and wear his Stan Smiths and his jeans.
Do you think your dad would be surprised at what you're doing right now?
No, not at all. Nah. In fact, he'd be encouraging it. He'd really encourage it. He'd think I was a bit crazy with the shoes, but then like seeing that I'm turning it into an actual business that has, you know, the potential to do something great in this world, I think he would be very supportive, and he would probably put some money into it as well.
But
He'd probably back it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you're an
Mm.
entrepreneur. I mean, let's talk about like where you came from, because you did have like, I think like 13, 14, 15 years in tech at a time when, as I said earlier, when there weren't a lot of women in tech. What were you doing exactly? And how did that, how has that helped you in what you're doing
Mm.
now? Because
Sure. I kind of fell into tech, which was interesting. I originally studied PR and marketing back in Australia, back in the 90s, mid 90s, and then wanted to get the fuck out because Australia is sort of like, it's beautiful, but it's also, very isolated and a little bit parochial in some ways. I was just like, I needed to get out of here. And I knew from a young age that as soon as I could travel, I would. And I did grow up traveling a lot with my dad for business and for work. So I did get to see a lot of the world as a youngster. So that was sort of like my inclination. As soon as I finished studying, I'd get out, and I did. And I went, I'd been studying PR and marketing, but while I was studying, I was actually fixing FPOS machines and ATM machines for a bank. They trained me, a big bank in Australia, a huge bank called ANZ. So I kind of got a good knack for fixing things and technology and telecommunications and banking and finance. So that sort of gave me a bit of a foundation. So I bailed, went to London, originally thought I was going to get a job in PR and marketing, only to realize that the money was crap, but landed a role working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, getting a contract job like in the IT department, and sort of stemmed from there, the whole IT. And then I realized, oh, the money in IT is good. Oh, I'm actually good at this. Oh, I'm learning things. Oh, I'm getting jobs. This is cool.
but what
And
was it
ended up
that
in
what was it that you were doing in IT? Like,
it was mainly, it started off support. So mainly in support roles, in networking. So networking support roles. And then I ended up in Israel for 4 years, almost 4 years. And I worked for ICQ, which was sort of like this very iconic. It was the first real like social platform on so many levels that went bananas. I mean, it was a chat program, but it was a social, application that we all loved, and they had hundreds of millions of users, and they got bought out by AOL. And I was there during that whole transition, and the stock market.com was booming like crazy, and
wait,
I was in the thick of it.
did you have equity in there?
Of course, they gave me options. It was fun. It was so fun. We went through 2 splits. Every time we got 10 million new subscribers, we'd have a party. They took us here. They took us. Dina will tell you all about it. She was there during the heydays. And so that was really fun. And that was an experience. And I was really young. I was like early 20s, 21, 22. And then ended up in another role, progressing in technology, working for another big Israeli tech conglomerate called Converse. And they do all the telecommunication solutions. So that's when I sort of went into like engineering level, and I started doing like a lot more techie stuff, and they trained me, and I was traveling every week to different cities in Europe. And I was 23 years old with like a laptop bag and, flying business class and sitting in lounges, and it was nuts. I was like, who am I? Like, they were putting me up in the Marriott in Budapest. And it was just a very wild experience. But, I met a lot of really interesting people along the way and learned a lot of things about telco and fixing telco solutions and text messaging and multimedia messaging. And this was early 2000s. So
It sounds young for
young.
someone. I mean, were you kind of like it does sound young to be doing that type of
It was
stuff. Like, I
young.
know
It was
people
really
in
young.
business, but it seems a bit young for you.
It was crazy, but I handled it well. I mean, I did it. I was doing graveyard shifts from like, 8 at night till 6 in the morning, taking down like 5 million, 10 million subscribers, and upgrading like servers. And it was crazy when I think about it now. It was exhausting, but it was crazy. And then September 11th happened, and it all went to bit psycho. And there was a bit of a crash. There was a .com crash, and And the second intifada happened in Israel. It got really hairy. Everything was exploding. And it was really intense. It was really, really, and I was alone. Like, I felt ultimately alone. Like, my family was all in Australia. Except I have a lot of family in Israel, but, parents and siblings and whatnot. So towards the end of '01, I was like, oh God, what is this place? And everyone was like, what are you doing here? You're Australian, go home. We want to get out of here. It was really scary. And I definitely got a form of PTSD that didn't last a long time. But after I left Israel and went back to Melbourne, it was pretty scary. Like, I didn't want to be in public places for a while. I didn't want to go to parties, and I just had this something was going to happen. There was always this feeling of something was going to happen. Am I safe? It was really intense. But then, I moved through that and kept going, riding the tech train, and ended up at News Corp, big Murdoch empire, and ended up in News Corp, also in IT, in the tech department, and doing publishing. So I learned more about publishing and newspapers and magazines and digital, and that was really fun. That was a whole other experience, and met my husband on JDate, on the website for Jewish dating in 2003.
People knock JDate, but when I was in New York, I was on JDate. I met some nice people.
It was the shit. It was legit. It wasn't some fuck fest. It was
No.
like proper.
Yeah,
people went on JDate because they actually wanted to have like a Jewish partner, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Can you imagine being single right now? I have some friends who are single, and they do that Tinder thing where they swipe left, swipe right, swipe.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you meet people. I've heard from people that you can't meet people any other way than these apps right now.
I would not like to be single in this day and age. I think it's a bit like overwhelmingly grass is greener effect. Like, I don't think anyone's ever entirely satisfied with what they find online, because there's always more to look at.
Yeah. It's like sneakers. There's always another one.
There's always another pair. But I love them all equally.
Right. Yeah, wait, so you're doing all of this stuff. You meet your husband.
Yeah.
I know you have a couple of kids. You're in Australia.
Yeah.
How did you get, what's the missing link here between where you are now and how did you get to where you are now?
To LA, in the sneakerdom of my life?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I went to New York after I met my husband online. He flew to Australia to meet me, which was like this whole like whirlwind romance, crazy situation. And we got engaged within like a couple of months and married within a couple of months. And 17 years later, here we are. But so a good success story, that's for sure. But between then and now, what was between then and now? There was Sydney, 10 years in Sydney, wow. 3 years in New York.
Oh my God.
And now 4 years in LA. I like moving. There's that expression in Hebrew, kotzim batachat.
Yeah.
That's me, mate. I get, after a few years.
Why do you say that in English?
Spikes in your ass.
Spikes in your ass.
Prickles in your bum.
Yeah, it sounds better in English the way you say it. Prickles in your bum.
Prickles in your bum. I actually had prickles in my bum in Joshua Tree a few months ago, and my business partner had to pull them out in the dark with a torch in the middle of the desert. That's a whole other story. But anyway,
you guys have definitely bonded. We'll hear about Ms. Chang soon.
Oh, Ms. Chang, Pappy, also commonly known as Pappy.
Pappy. We'll talk to Pappy. Yeah. We'll talk about Pappy. So you were saying that LA last 4 years, is that where you just started building this empire called Common Ace?
Kind of. I had my light bulb moment in 2014 in Australia at an event. It was like a tech kind of creative tech event where we were listening to like other founders and entrepreneurs in the space. And I was listening to a dude talk about how he'd built this platform where people could go online and request wood makers to build furniture, and you'd sort of like, anyway, whatever it was. And that was where it happened. I was just sort of like, oh my God, I need to build a platform where people can shop for sneakers in one place from lots of different retailers. And I wasn't reinventing the wheel or anything. It was just, there was other sites that existed for this type of service, but no one was really doing it for sneakers. And it was really ultimately just solving a problem for myself, because, you know, being in Australia and shopping online for kicks back then was difficult. We would have multiple tabs open. You know, the way the brands worked is, and they still work like this, they limit the supply and the styles to the retailers. So you'd be bouncing all over the web just trying to find that one pair of shoe in your size. That you'd find it in the colorway, but they wouldn't have it in your size, or you find your size and they wouldn't have it in the color. And it was just sort of like this trap that was just frustrating. And my inclination was like, well, why not just aggregate the data and put it all in one spot? Like, how hard can that be? But at the time when I came up with this idea, I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and, you know, not a lot of help and a busy husband. And I was like, fuck, I've got to do this. So I started exploring it, and I got really involved in the community in Australia as well, the sneaker community there, which was amazing. And all the communities around the world are equally just, I love the sneaker community. I think that's also a big part of it, is that we all share this love, and there's a big bond there, and it's very down to earth. It's very different from the fashion industry, which I have worked in and spent time in as well. And it's just this very common bond. So yeah, the community there was great. And I met a developer there who was sort of helping me do a bit of a build, do the first iteration of it. And
But what's unique about Common Ace? What is it?
It's a one-stop destination for women. There's nowhere where women can go online to find what they're looking for that is really catering to them and catering to the female psyche. Women and men shop very differently, and I think that's a big part of why it's different and why it's unique. And we're not also about the hype and the latest drops and the coolest of the cool. We're really about supporting and bringing to light that all women love sneakers, and we shop differently, and there's a great place for it. I said there needs to be a great place for that online, and why not make it more inclusive and support diversity and support the community worldwide and create a bigger community for the female sneaker lover.
It's interesting what you said in your Forbes interview, and yes, I've done my research. So you had less than $10,000, dollars in startup capital, but you said that the most valuable kind of like investment was leveraging the network that you had and that you built over the years. And I imagine that has a lot to do with the sneaker community that you fostered, and also, women. I made a film with a friend of mine called She's That Woman, where we celebrate women. And I
love.
Thank you. Well, in the process of making that film, it was eye-opening for me, because we discovered so much about women that we didn't know. And here's another thing that I'm discovering, just like what you just said about that there's such a difference in the way that men and women shop, that it inspired you to do this.
Totally. I work part-time now at Kith, which is this awesome, super cool sneaker store. It's one of those stores where, people line up to get in, and we have all the hype drops, and it's, very, very cool. But they're also catering to a women's market there. They do a really cool women's collection of clothes, and they have their shoes in there. But I'm constantly talking to the female customers that come in there. That's sort of been like,
you don't need to work there, do you, at all? You do it.
Not at all. No.
Why do you do it? Why do you work there?
It's my happy place. It's like a holiday. I don't know how to explain it. It gives me the same feelings of like going on a vacation. I get to dress up, right? That's like my favorite thing to do. So I love dressing up. I get to meet people that I've never met before that love sneakers as much as I do. So I get to have these great conversations all day about shoes and fashion. And I get to learn. I get to be around the product, obviously. I get access to product, which is sometimes, a bit difficult to get, certain product that we get at the store. And I get to understand the female shopper a little bit more as well. I got to learn so much more, and I got to understand how retail works from ground zero. That was the reason why I took this job. And I got to get my foot into the community here into LA, which was also a big deal. Like, I was like, how am I going to get in here? Like, I knew a few people, but I didn't know everyone. And as soon as I started working there, I started meeting everyone. And it was a blessing. I was so grateful for working there. I'm still grateful for working there. And I'll stay there for as long as I can because it really gives me joy going there and the team, the guys that work there. And again, I'm like, one of very few females that are in the store, and mothers, that's for sure.
I was going to say, it's like pretty intense. You have 2 kids, you've got your own business, you're on a show, you have your own show on Snapchat, you've got, this job. It's a lot. How do you?
Yeah, I go every few months. I get like one of those like vitamin B IVs, like those intravenous. Just to keep alive,
You do a lot.
I do a lot. It's a bit psycho. It is a lot. And but I'm like, it's fun. And then part of me, I won't lie, part of me just wants to move to Costa Rica.
I mean, even
lie on a beach.
Something else that people might not know is that you were also, I think you were in a documentary where you're in a helicopter and you're dangling your feet out of it. What was that? What documentary? You were in a documentary.
That was for Foot Locker. That was really crazy, actually. That was like within the first 6 months of arriving to LA. I got hit up by a producer. I mean, this is so LA. Got hit up by this documentary producer who was pitching to Foot Locker a series on people, why they're having a love of sneakers and passing it down to their children. So it's like generations. It was called Foot Locker Generations or something like that. So yeah, they pitched me and they loved it and they loved the idea, and they said, what's a cool thing we can do for it? I said, how about I go in a helicopter with no doors over LA and I'll hang my feet over the edge and we'll take some photos. And they're like, okay, great. And so we did it.
Yeah, never
shat my pants.
Yeah, sure. I've never even been in a helicopter, let alone dangling my feet out of one.
Oh God, literally like over fucking downtown LA, like and it was like like no door, like zero, nothing, wide open, legs hanging out. I was like, oh, but yeah, it was good. I'd do it again.
Well, if you go again, I'm going to come with you. I have to read you a quote from an interview that you had, okay? And we'll talk about this. Technology and street are already merging on so many levels. You're seeing it through design and socially. You're seeing it through the art itself that's being made and curated. It's definitely happening in the world of streetwear, and it's exciting. What I foresee is that it's just going to get bigger and things are just going to get even more digitally oriented. So in the context of Common Ace and what you're doing, the merging of, I mean, we all know about the merging of kind of like digital and everything, I think. How does that play into what you're doing right now with Common Ace?
It kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, digital is now. Digital is everything. Digital is like, everyone's got a fucking phone in their hand, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunately, as I say. But this is the bridge. This is taking it to the bridge. This is allowing us all to connect, and yeah, it is only going to get bigger and bigger.
How easy is it to shop for sneakers on Common Ace? Like, if you're a woman and you want to go and buy a pair of sneakers, and it's
great. Right now, we're still evolving. We're still, like, as any tech startup is constantly evolving within the first like 2-3 years. I think you're always trying to up the ante and get more money, and up the ante and get more money and up the ante. So we're at that stage now. We've built We've sort of done a few upgrades, but this year, later in the year, we're going to be doing a bigger upgrade. So we want to turn it into a more one single checkout process for the site. Right now, we're an affiliate-based process, so it's really great if you're really just trying to find that shoe, and then that'll send you to the merchant where to go buy that shoe from. So in terms of access, I mean, we have so much product on the site, and it's all curated. So I'm the one that's actually curating the product. So I'm specifically picking several retailers that I know have a really great selection, and also have the ability to ship to most of the planet. And I'm also choosing the product that I know people will love. You know, I'm not putting on like, you know, boring, you know, standard, oh, I need to go for a jog in them shoes. Like, I'm picking some stuff that's a bit cooler than that.
Well, is it more for sneaker enthusiasts, or is it people like, you know, I just need a pair of sneakers?
Need a pair of sneakers. Both. Anyone. Guys are shopping on our site. Guys are actually like searching on our site. And this is the coolest thing about Common Ace, is that we don't discriminate. Okay, yes, we are targeting women. That's great. And, you know, we're creating this destination for the female consumer. However, we're pulling in men's shoes, women's shoes, kids' shoes, all shoes. We don't discriminate, because women, their feet are feet at the end of the day, and women can wear a men's size 9 or a men's size 8 or a men's size 10. Women have big feet too.
My wife has big feet. Yeah.
She's big feet, right?
She's got
So
big
it's
feet.
like, you know, and like we're not, and most women's quote unquote, you know, selection of sneakers are a little bit lame a lot of the time, and a lot of the brands are like shrinking it and pinking it, which sucks. And most of the women that do shop for sneakers or want to buy sneakers actually look at men's shoes, go, why the fuck aren't they in my size, or do they fit me? They don't even attempt to look at the men's section on websites, because they think they have to look at the women's sections on websites to buy their shoes.
So when a woman's shopping for shoes, she should look at men's shoes in small sizes, and there's a good chance that
she might find something. But the thing is, every website you go to that sells shoes besides ours will say men's and women's. So what's every female going to do when she gets on that site? She's going to click women's. She's going to check sneakers, and she's going to see all the sneakers that are available to her, right? However, she might fit into men's shoes, so she might not even look at the men's section. It's definitely something to be said, especially working in a store where I'd say 80% of the shoes on the shelf, no, not 80, maybe 70% of the shoes on the shelf are all men's shoes and have men's sizing. They all start at men's size 8. And the other 30% is all women. Like, what is that? You know, and I've got girls coming into the store looking at the men's section going, oh, do you have that in my size? Do you have that in my size? Sorry. You know, so that's the problem right there.
Was that when you came up with the idea for the business, was that the problem, the motivation, just like, I want to buy a pair?
Yeah. Big part of it. Accessibility is like the biggest part of it, of all of it. Not just like accessibility from like, oh, you know, I want to have access to all the different brands and the retailers, but from the sizing perspective as well. That's huge.
Common Ace. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? The name?
Ace is the name of my firstborn son. However, his name originated from the fact that in Melbourne, Australia, we don't say cool, we say ace. Ace is like a normal word for cool. So it's a slang, it's a Melbourne word.
So it's just
also
common,
ace.
Common and ace, just like that.
Yeah, sneakers are ace. And common meaning, you know, the one love. You know, the one love, and ace being number one, you know, the best of the best. So, and common, community, come together, love it all because it's cool.
Let me ask you about your partner. I heard a little bit the energy of this woman and what a great partner she is to you. How did you meet her?
We met at an event through a guy called Jeff Staple. Jeff Staple's like a big OG, like he's like the godfather of sneakers. He's like huge in the industry. He has a brand called Staple Pigeon. He's very, very like famous in the streetwear world. and he was launching a shoe with Nike. It was called the Panda Pigeon Dunk, and he was doing like a filmed live event in LA like 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And she was there and I was there, and she heard me say, I kid you not, oy vey, from across the room. And she literally came running up to me and said, did you just say oy vey? And I said, yeah. And she's like this tiny little like Taiwanese, Asian American woman. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I'm from Queens. I know what oy vey is. I say oy vey all the time. We need to be friends. And that's how it started.
I like her already. I like her already.
Literally, that was exactly what happened. And like we speak to each other every single day since then. We've spoken to each other.
And she lives right next to you, right? I mean, didn't she just?
Yeah. 5 minutes down the road, she bought a house. We're like each other's Kramer. Like we have the codes to each other's doors. We just like turn up. She'll come into my house, take leftovers, just leave, and stuff like that. It's pretty insane. We're pretty insane together. There's a lot of energy. It gets very loud. And then we met this TV producer, and he's like, you need to have a TV show as well. So we did that.
So you have a TV show called The Loop. And that's
we produce it. We produced. It's on Snapchat at the moment. We produced it. We write it. It's had like 4 million views. It's done really well. We do it with 2 other co-hosts who are also just amazing, amazing women. The 4 of us are like the Spice Girls when we're together. And it gets really, really loud on set and very, very fun. But yeah, I actually met the producer at Kith like years ago. He's a director producer. He did shows like The Voice and Hip Hop Squares. He's pretty well known in the LA TV world. I met him years ago, like right when I first started, like 3 years ago or something, and we became mates. And he was like, I really want to do something in the space for women in sneakers. He's like, I see it. It's the future, da, da, da. He got it. He totally got it. So I then pitched to him my idea. Said I wanted to do like a fashion police streetwear culture show for women in kicks, and he was like, brilliant. So I introduced him to Sophia, and we then recruited the other girls. He brought on Sheila, and we recruited one more girl, and it's doing really well. But right now we're actually in the midst of building out a new reel, and we're going to be pitching it to the bigger networks because they're all really interested in it now. So this could end up on like Facebook Watch or Hulu or Netflix or one of those guys. So because right now it's only short form. It's only like a short show. We want it to be like a proper, 25-minute experience, because then you get your money's worth.
You're just like a go-getter. You're an entrepreneur. What is it that you want to achieve? Like, where is it?
I just want to live my best life. I just want to live my best life. I want to leave this body one day and say, fuck, I had fun. I did the best I can do. I did something for the planet, and, I gave people joy. And that's it. I think it's about giving people joy and nachas, nachas. Bring on the joy and do unto others, like that's really where it comes from above everything else. I don't want to, sitting down and doing nothing and just, I don't know. But then you could be like a gardener and like have a farm and grow things and support a community. That's also joy. It just, I don't know. This is what resonates to me.
When I look at you, I just see a maker, right? You just make things happen. You make relationships happen. You make business happen. You make your dreams happen. Even Sophia, right? So
yeah,
like, I mean, I understood from you that she's an artist as well. Like she's an illustrator. She draws, she designs. And I don't know if it's just like making the world a better. I see you as a creator.
Yeah, creator. That's true. Yeah, I am. I'm a creator, I suppose. Yeah. I'm a doer. I'm a mover and shaker.
All right. I have a question for you. There are people listening who are young women and they have big dreams. And you are an entrepreneur that follows your dreams. What advice would you give them? And where have you fucked up?
I'll answer the latter first. I will say, number 1, don't fucking stop. And number 2, do something every single day of your life that leads towards whatever it is that you want to do, whatever that North Star is. Like have your North Star, get clear on that North Star and do something every single day, even if it's like sending an email, whatever, or making a call or doing a bit of research, pen to paper, whatever it might be, do something a little bit every single day of your life towards that North Star, whatever it is. That's my first piece of advice to the dreamers, to the go-getters, to the future go-getters, to the movers and shakers, to the creators, all of you guys. A little something every single day, even if you're fucking tired and you can't be bothered. Just a little something, even if it's 5 minutes. What was the other question? Where'd I fuck up?
Like, what's a mistake you made that you really learned from?
Accountability for certain things, I'd say, like in certain situations. Just like, no, I don't think it's accountability. I think it's more like, I don't think I've fucked up. I think I've just learnt along the way from different situations. I don't think anything's a fuck up. I think every fuck up, it depends whether you look at it like a fuck up or not. I could say not starting Common Ace earlier than I should have was a fuck up, but I was meant to start Common Ace when I started it at the right time when I did. I don't think like that. I don't think have I fucked up.
Yeah, it just sounds like you don't believe that you fuck up. You just learn. I mean, that's a pretty.
You just learn. Yeah, I don't think back to any fuck ups because I'm here right now, and that's all that matters. I don't know.
Do you live in the present?
I do. I mean, my brain definitely is wired a lot for like thinking about the future and what's next and got to do this and got to do that and what's on my list and da 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 da. But I try and remain as present as possible. I think meditation has made a big difference in my life.
Well, tell me about that. What is that?
So every morning going in, I think it's really important to go in and have a practice. My practice is a combination of a few different things. I'll do meditations where I will feel into the future. So I do it's kind of like manifestation work, but like I'll go to a place of like nowhere, like literally nowhere. I'll go into space and then I will embody the future right now. And I feel it. I feel that future and I take it all in and then I just let it go. And like it's a really cool type of meditation. And then I do a lot of also type of like TM type meditations where I'll just let my brain go through its motions. I'll have my little mantra and I'll just sit in silence for 20 minutes and just let my brain run around and do its thing. And that's actually, it's your brain and your mind decompressing. It's actually very important to have those moments where you tune in, listen, decompress and release, get back to your breath. And then the other thing that I like to do is also is do some prayer. And I'm Jewish, obviously, and I love Judaism and always have. But my version of prayer is also tapping into the greater creative energies of the universe, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. And I just have a chat. And I just talk about the day that I want to have ahead and sending out lots of love to everyone on earth and, you know, being the best at whatever I can do and having awareness over things in my life that I don't want to hold on to, that don't serve me any longer, that don't serve me and my purpose, having awareness over that. And also being aware and in tune to the signs and messages and that we receive in our everyday life that let us know that we're in alignment or on track. So being aware of those signs is very important.
That's beautiful. I have one more question. Well, two. What's something that nobody really knows about you?
I pick my nose and I wipe it on the side of the bed at night sometimes. Actually, maybe edit that out.
It's staying in there, honey.
Who doesn't? I reckon everyone does.
We do. Well, first of all, we all pick our noses. It's where we wipe them is always somewhere. Everyone has their
sometimes
own.
on the side of the bed, sometimes out the car window. I tend to do that a bit as well. I'll pick my nose and flick it out the car. Yeah, little flick. But anything someone doesn't know about me.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I think I have a big bum, but everyone else says it's
Everyone
fantastic.
knows that. I don't know if you have a big bum because I'm just seeing your head right now. But the other question is just because, we got to wrap, but I do have one question, which is like, where can people, keep up with you and follow you?
Social channels, just at RomRomYYY and at Common Ace. That's probably the best thing if you want to see. Oh, and the loop on Snapchat. The loop on Snapchat is really fun if you want to have a laugh and a half.
I'm going to have a laugh and a half. Romy, thank you so much for spending time with me on that. You have been lovely and delightful, and you're so full of energy. It's just like I'm so inspired coming off of this call, just listening to you. You really have.
Dog.
You really have that. No, you do. You have that. You have that. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, babe. Love you. Miss you. Can't wait to see you one of these days.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening to I'm That Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to the show on iTunes. And if you'd like, leave a rating and review. Tune in for the next episode and see you soon.